From pulpits to podcasts, scientists to suburban parents wondering if their fridge is listening, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. And for good reason. AI is no longer the stuff of sci-fi. It's in your back pocket. It writes your emails, it predicts your shopping list, even your dating profile if you're brave enough. Some hail it as a technological Prometheus, here to cure cancer, end poverty, maybe even one day upload us to immortality. Others, however, see it as something of a Pandora's box, poised to rewrite what it means to be human and perhaps end our species altogether. So how should we think about all of this? Where should we land on the spectrum of possibilities? Should we be afraid of AI? Well, I've explored some of the bigger technical, philosophical, and theological concerns elsewhere, but here I want to slow down and spend more time, and I will so in future videos, because I sense a deeper need to bring real-world urgency and public anxiety into a theological conversation. These are strange days that we're living in, and Christianity has a unique voice that can speak into them without flinching or flattening. So let's break it down now in this short answer. 3 short points. First, what our fears reveal. Second, what our desires project. And third, what the gospel reclaims. First, what our fears reveal. Fear isn't just a feeling. It's more like a window revealing not just the frightful things out there, but the fragile things in here. What we love, what we depend on, what we're afraid to lose. And in that sense, fear doesn't simply come as a response to danger. It also comes as a response from value. Our deepest fears tend to orbit around the things that matter the most to us. And I think this helps explain something of the public reaction to AI today. And as I have observed, that fear tends to come at least 2 levels. The first is the ethical. This is the use and misuse of AI. How will human beings retain control over AI capabilities and alignment? And how will civil society ensure that such control remains democratic rather than concentrated in the hands of an oligarchy? Think Hunger Games or iRobot or surveillance capitalism, algorithmic bias, job automation, misinformation, manipulation, and on and on and on. According to the AAIC, that's the AI Algorithmic and Automation Incidents and Controversies Initiative, there has been a 35-fold increase in reported AI-related incidents since 2012, with nearly a quarter of those occurring within the last 18 months. So we're talking here about everything from facial recognition leading to wrongful arrests, deep fake impersonations impacting wars and elections in real time, pricing algorithms exploiting users, even one case in Scotland where an AI camera mistook a soccer referee's bald head for the ball. Unlike previous technologies, AI is not neutral. It's architected by human intelligence, and we're still trying to play catch up with just what that means. Not just in how we regulate these tools, but in how we even talk about them, because we humans are not wholly transparent to ourselves. So these ethical fears aren't hysteria. They are what happens when knowledge outpaces wisdom, when we hand powerful tools to people with almost no guardrails, not because AI is evil, but because we never stop to ask, just because we can do something, should we do it? But there is another level here of fear that is concerned more with the what of what AI is. This is less ethics, more metaphysics, and it asks questions like, can AI become conscious, have intentions, develop desires? Might it surpass us not just in power, but in personhood? Think movies like The Matrix or Blade Runner, which give voice to these anxieties, which seem less and less like fantasy and more like foresight today. In fact, some experts are warning that within this decade, by the late 2020s, AI may surpass human intelligence across most domains. That's a terrifying thought, isn't it? But I think an even more terrifying question is this: what does it say about us if we are willing to believe that it could? Whether our fear is ethical or existential, I don't think it's really about machines at all. I think this is ultimately about meaning. Because fear, rightly traced, offers a kind of theological map, revealing not only the dangers out there, but what we treasure in here. You see, we don't just see the world as human beings. We see the world through what we love. What we love shapes how we see ourselves, each other, and ultimately God. The evidence of this, by the way, is just the cultural climate in which we live and the politicization of so many issues today. All of this, I think, leads to a second point: what our desires project. You see, if fear reveals what we're afraid to lose, then desire projects what we're still struggling to find. And together, I think they form a kind of compass, one oriented by loss, the other by longing. We've seen this dynamic throughout the history of technology, from hammers to harvesters. The tools of technology have extended human reach throughout every age, but throughout every age, there was always a clear line between the tool and the hand that wielded it. Function informed identity. A hammer hammers, a harvester harvests. But what makes our age of AI today so unique is that AI doesn't just do something, it appears to be something. After all, what does a smart device do? Be smart. But what does that mean? An IQ test? An EQ test? A social test? Francis Bacon warned centuries ago that the mechanical arts could cast a kind of spell, captivating us with their usefulness while reshaping how we see ourselves. If the only reference point for intelligence is humanity, then part of what makes AI such a unique advancement is that it's not merely functional, it's reflective. Less like a tool, more like a mirror. But what do we find when we look into that black mirror of AI? When we start looking at the things we've made to understand ourselves, we do see something, but the reflection is always partial. As far as I'm aware, there is no coherent explanation in support of the idea that AI possesses understanding of its actions. It can write about love, but it can't feel longing. It can detect a tumor, but it can't grieve the loss. It can finish your sentence, but it cannot finish the story of your life. Suppose someone says, "Dave, just give it time though, mate, and it will." Okay, fair enough. But ask yourself now, what does that assumption make about human intelligence? If we say we just need to give AI more time, more data, more power to bridge the gap between silicon and soul, then what are we assuming AI is? A simpler version of us, just waiting to level up. But what is that saying about us? You see, that way of thinking reflects a peculiar kind of madness in our society today, one that tends to marvel at the painting but forgets the painter. A mirror won't turn into a person simply because you stare at it long enough. A calculator doesn't know what 2 + 2 means, it just runs the code. AI systems don't understand their outputs either. They shuffle symbols using rules written by humans, trained on data curated by humans to produce results interpreted in turn by humans. The danger, therefore, isn't that machines will develop values of their own. It's that we will pass along ours, values already in so many cases hollowed out by consumerism, tribalism, and the economics of attention grabbing, so that in the end, AI becomes something of an automated parody of our best and worst impulses, optimized and unleashed at scale. This is why I think Christianity must have a voice in the AI conversation, because the Christian vision grounds human dignity, not in intelligence, not in usefulness, not in output, but in the image of God. That's transcendent. That's beyond everything this world has to offer, and therefore it changes everything AI touches and reflects back about us. As impressive and powerful as AI is, and oh, it is, we project a categorical confusion when we start trading it off against humanity. To talk about human rights for robots, as in the case of the chatbot Lambda, or grant AI citizenship, as in the case of Sophia from Hanson Robotics in Saudi Arabia, we reveal just how deep this confusion runs, not just in what AI can do, but in what we assume it means when it does. To ask if a machine can become conscious is to forget that the machine only exists because conscious humans made it in the first place. That's like saying minds are like computers because computers are like minds. It's an incoherent thought circle. Today, we're not just making tools, we're building mirrors. And in a world that's lost so much of its theological imagination, those AI mirrors tend to confuse a partial reflection for the whole of reality. And slowly but subtly, what has happened is we are beginning to adopt machine values as our own. Efficiency, output, control. Human thinking is becoming more and more about computation. Intimacy, more and more about some sort of digital transaction. Creativity, more and more mere pattern recognitions. Presence, sheer availability. And we don't just misunderstand AI in the process, we misremember ourselves. You see, here's the great irony in all of this. The more we try to make machines more like human beings, the more we end up making human beings more like machines. I don't think the issue is that machines are gaining intrinsic value. I think it's that we're forgetting our own. We've stopped asking what makes us valuable, where our intelligence comes from. Now we're just asking if we're still useful. Men have become the tools of their tools, to quote Henry David Thoreau. And maybe that's the real anxiety beneath all of the headlines and hype today about AI. Not the fear of what's out there, but the ache of what's missing in here. And this leads us to a third and final point, what the gospel reclaims. Where fear reveals what we're afraid to lose and desire projects what we're longing to find, the gospel of Jesus Christ reclaims it all, finding what's lost, fulfilling what's lacking. Now, I'm not trying to splash in the shallows of naive optimism here. I'm not dismissing the real dangers of AI that need to be thought through. I'm just trying to relocate them. Like every tool, the dangers of AI are shaped by the hands that wield it. And those hands in turn are shaped by the hearts that guide them. And this isn't a new story. From Eden to Babel and beyond, humanity's oldest mistakes have never just been about what we do, but about who we become as we do it. We eat the fruit, we build the tower, we make the machine. But unchecked power without wisdom doesn't make us gods. It only reveals how deeply we've forgotten we're not. That's the lesson of the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11. It wasn't about architecture, it was about arrogance. A people united not to glorify God, but to make a name for ourselves. The danger was never in the technology of the bricks. It was in the hearts guiding the hands that laid them. And so it is today. AI excites the ancient temptation to be like God without God, to create intelligence in our image and call it divine, to transcend mortal limitations, to escape death and build a kingdom without having to go through a cross. But if the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus has taught us anything, it's that the only way to build a kingdom that will last is to carry a cross. The cross was not a glitch in the providential system of history. It's the inbreaking and remaking of it. The gospel doesn't help us outgrow our humanity. It redeems it. God doesn't save us from being human. He saves us as human beings. Because our deepest problem isn't computational capacity. It's moral character. It's not more information, it's the right relation. And here's the wonder of grace. While we're still trying to climb those steps of Babel, God came down, not to upgrade our software, but to resurrect our body and soul. That's what the gospel reclaims. And it's the whole reality. Human value was never meant to be found by looking in the mirror of your own partial reflection, but in the fullness of the one you were made to reflect. You are not defined by what you see in yourself or what others see in you, but by God who saw you first and said, "Very good." And even when your heart says, "Not good enough," he just doubles down. Not with words of affirmation, but with the priceless gift of his own life. At the cross, your value wasn't just stated, it was spent. And heaven paid the price in full. AI can finish a sentence, but it cannot redeem your story. Jesus can. AI can scan your body for disease, but it cannot cleanse your heart from sin. Jesus will. AI can mirror your preferences, but it cannot shape your soul. Jesus can. AI can beat you at a game of chess, but it cannot walk with you through suffering. Jesus does. AI can generate answers from human data, but it cannot give wisdom from above. Jesus is. AI can preserve your memory, but it cannot shatter your grave. Jesus already has. The human heart does not need more silicon. It needs a savior. Not one made in your image or in my image, but one who made us in his. So where does all of this leave us now? It leaves us with a choice, not just about what to do with our technology, but about what to do with our trust. Because fear rightly placed doesn't need to paralyze us. It can anchor us as we shift our eyes from what we can't control below to the sovereign one above. AI is turning out to be something of a cautionary tale in the making. But as you and I play our part in this story, we would do well to avoid the twin temptations to demonize AI as a monster or to deify it as a messiah. We don't need to collapse into fear and sensationalism, but we must not bow in awe and adoration either. AI is not the beginning nor the end of us. There is one Alpha and Omega. His name is Jesus Christ. AI is a tool, and like every tool, it reveals the heart that holds it. It may expose what we truly believe about ourselves. Let it. Let it surface our fears so that we can bring them to the one who casts out all fear. Let it highlight your limitations so you can run to the one for whom nothing is impossible. And let's let it stir our questions so that we can anchor them in the word that never changes. Because in the end, the greatest threat to your humanity and mine is not some machine with artificial power, but a heart that's forgotten its true source. The Christian hope is not transhuman or post-human, it's post-death. Because Jesus didn't rise from a server farm, he rose from a grave.